Ben White, Ricardo Calafiori, Piero Hincapié, Christian Mosquera, Jurien Timber, William Saliba, Gabriel Magalhaes, and now Ezri Konsa. Do you know what we call that, people? We call that the great defensive wall of Arsenal. Look at the depth of options we have. And I must admit, the more I consider the fact that we've got Konsa now and I start to think, the more I actually like it, people. So let me know your thoughts and let me continue. The loss of William Saliba crystallized Arsenal's requirements. They wanted a player with Premier League experience, able to slot straight into the back four. A player who could also cover at right back was considered ideal. Ezri Konsa ticked every box. So why don't we compare Saliba and Konsa together? Beyond the obvious, we know Saliba's the better player. When you compare the two, again, statistics are not everything, but it does give you food for thought. And you do have to caveat with Arsenal being the best team in the Premier League, we do slightly less defending. Nevertheless, I think it is evidently clear for me, Arsenal haven't merely signed emergency Saliba cover. We've signed a defender whose efficiency in several major defensive categories compares favorably with one of the world's best centre-halves. The standout stat for me is the 12% point advantage in ground duel success for Ezri Konsa. It challenges the idea that he's a passive defender. The aerial statistics also undermines what is a potentially lazy narrative that he's automatically poor in the air. However, the current graphic doesn't show aerial duels and aerial volume. Apologies. Now, when you sit there and look at it, Konsa beat Saliba in the following. His passing accuracy is at 95.51% versus 92.78%. Now, don't get it twisted. Saliba's probably more adventurous with his passing. Aerial success, Konsa's got 57.14 versus 54.69. Ground duels is nothing really in it. Konsa comes out with 2.1 versus 2.0. Ground duel success rate, 72.34% versus 60.42%. Interceptions, again, nothing really in that. Konsa scores 0.7. Saliba's got 0.6. Saliba leads the way for forward passes, tackles, clearances, and recoveries. So we are getting a defender who's good on the ground, as dumb as that sounds. When you look at best dual ground success rate in the 2025-26 season, he's first. He's ahead of Virgil van Dijk, head of Gabriel, head of Botman, and head of Veltman with 73.1%. Among Premier League defenders with at least 60 ground duels contested, he ranks first, people. And he also ranks 3.1% points above Van Dijk and 3.2 above Gabriel. You combine that with the earlier Saliba comparison, the argument potentially becomes, people, Arsenal have added the Premier League's most efficient ground duel defender to a squad already containing a wealth of defensive options, specifically Saliba and Gabriel. Arsenal didn't just buy defensive depth. We signed statistically the only defender who beats Van Dijk and Gabriel for ground duel success last season. Then you start to look at this map on screen, people. This ain't going to make sense to some of you, but I'll do my best to dumb it down. Just looks good in terms of the aesthetics. Defensive duel success, he's in the 97th percentile. Forward passing completion, he's in the 98th percentile. Passes completed, he's in the 75th percentile. Aerial duel success, he's in the 59th percentile. He played 3,373 minutes, people. So this isn't necessarily a tiny sample size, people. So that's what he's good at. His limitations, progressive passes, he's in the 10th percentile. So again, we probably will double down on build-up play off the left. Possessions won, he's in the 2nd percentile. Progressive carries is in the 48th percentile. So Konsa is an efficiency defender rather than a high-volume aggressor. He rarely loses defensive contests statistically. He enters and protects possession exceptionally well, but he doesn't constantly step out, he recover loose balls, or progress the game in itself. So again, if you're looking at him to be a Rolls Royce, it's not going to be that, but a valued squad player, and again, strengthening our defensive depth. That explains the apparent contradiction, people, when you look at it. 97th percentile for defensive duels won, but only in the 2nd percentile for possession won. So that could show he chooses his moments and when to win them. He isn't hunting the ball consistently and continuously. Konsa is not being signed to become Arsenal's chief playmaker from centre-back. He's being signed because when opponents isolate him, run at him, or force him into a duel, he survives and thrives. And alongside the Rice, the Salibas, the Gabriels, the many wealth of midfield options in our collective team, we could arguably compensate for his limited progressive passing. This data actually suggests he's ideal for protecting the lead, defending transitions, and covering right back and right centre half, which why we signed him. Not that I necessarily care, people, but once again, the best dual success rate of any player in the Premier League was Konsa with 73.1%. He was dribbled past just 3 times in the Premier League last season, which again is good. But what I mean by that is I don't necessarily care because my eyes tell me he's good, people. You could watch Konsa for more than 12 full matches before seeing an attacking dribble passing once. Arsenal have added that defender to Saliba, Gabriel, Timber, and all the wealth of options, people. He's roughly run at people or dribbled against people once every 1,124 minutes. So if that's happening at Villa, what's going to happen at Arsenal? Approximately once every 12.5 full matches. So this just shows, again, the statistics in the eye test. You warm to the idea, people. It explains his profile perfectly. Low possessions, one figure, doesn't mean he cannot defend. It suggests he's not a high-volume gambler. He controls space, delays attackers, and chooses when to engage, and is exceptionally difficult to isolate and eliminate 1v1. You look at his dual success rate, along with Gabriel and Saliba, people, across the last season. He's at 67.1%, Gabriel's 65.2%, and Saliba's at 56.7%. He led both our defenders for that last season, people. This isn't the same statistic as the 73.1% ground duel success figure. It appears to be a broader overall duel measure, but both point in the same direction. Konsa is extraordinarily efficient when physically engaged. And for me, that's the real beauty because we've got profiles that complement each other. Gabriel Magalhaes, aggressive front-footed enforcer and aerial/box defender. Saliba, gracious, recovery defender, space controller, superior progressive passer. Now you're adding Konsa, controlled 1v1 defender, and extremely difficult to dribble pass. Konsa hasn't arrived beneath Saliba or Gabriel. He's arrived beside them with one major defensive statistic in which he outperforms both, if I'm honest with you. Of course, availability is great. 34 starts, 34 appearances, shows he's ever-present, people, which, again, we like that, people. And you look at the minutes he's played, he's well coped with playing multiple games in a season. And obviously, we're buying not just reliability from what we've been talking about, but Konsa can cover both centre-back and right-back without needing several weeks to necessarily build his match sharpness, people. So he excels at ground defending. That appears to be his superpower, people. If I'm honest, and he's quite controlled in that. He excels at dribbles faced and tackles. He's good in the air. He's better in the air than the eye test leads, because when Villa fans and Arsenal fans are saying that, I was taking note, people. Aerial duels stand at 113. Aerial success rate is 60%. That does, owing to the previous graphic, place him in the 59th percentile. So approximately, people, per 90 minutes, he's winning 1.79 of his aerial duels to the 2.98 that he's consistently contesting. This tells us he's competent / good aerially, but he's not an aerial monster. So this whole Konsa is poor in the air narrative is exaggerated, but Arsenal shouldn't present him as a Gabriel-style penalty box destroyer either. He's good enough to not be targeted easily. He's better than some supporters assume. He's not necessarily the main reason Arsenal signed him for his individual qualities. It's more like how he complements us. And again, he could be very secure around either Saliba, a Gabriel, or many others, people. His passing volume, he does play it a bit safe. I don't mind that because he's not launching balls into pointless areas. Clearly, this is someone that doesn't do things above their pay grade. He's not the most efficient, I don't know why I struggled there, and progressive penetrative passer, but nobody looks at Konsa to do that, people. It's more the basics, the reading of the game, the interceptings, when to engage in duels, when not to engage in duels, when to make blocks, when to attempt that pass. He's not going to do things above his pay grade, people. There is one thing to worry about, though. Positional mistakes, 41. Positional mistakes leading to chances, 18. Closing down mistakes, 6. Positional mistakes per 90 minutes, people, 1.08. Mistakes leading to chances, 0.47. Closing down mistakes, 0.16. These numbers shouldn't be interpreted really negatively, but it does give you food for thought because Konsa's direct defending can be elite, while his collective positioning potentially needs some refinement, people. Knowing when to hold the line, maintaining the correct distance with his centre-half partner, passing runners between defenders, deciding when to go into midfield, because we are at Arsenal going to have to see him be a bit more adventurous on the ball in his own way, because we're 9 times out of 10 our games are spent in the opposition's half, defending in a proper high line, which, to be fair, who doesn't play in a high line, people? Reacting when a fullback or midfielder vacates a space or a zone. This adaptation period may come with a risk. At Villa, Konsa frequently defended with a different structure. Arsenal will ask him to defend a larger space while participating in a highly coordinated press. Attackers rarely beat Konsa directly. The greater risk is whether Arsenal's movement and high line drag him into the wrong positions before duels occur, people. So it's a bit of a weird one. When you look at his profile, he's elite at surviving ground duels, extremely difficult to dribble past, calm and collected and accurate under pressure, available and physically dependable, competent aerially, strong at anticipating and intercepting, positionally flexible across centre back and right back. He is not an elite progressive passer. He is not a regular line breaking disruptor from defense. He is not a high volume possession winner. He's not a dominant attacking set piece threat, and he's not automatically overall superior to Saliba or Gabriel. So yeah, Arsenal haven't clearly signed another Saliba. They've signed a specialist that doesn't need to duplicate. He's durable. Obviously, 50 odd million, we could probably define that as low risk. He's versatile and he's experienced, people, and he's good at the traditional arts of defending. For me, guys, if there's one thing Arsenal don't lack in, is signing defenders. I'm happy with it. I think Konsa is experienced. He's 28 years of age. You've seen, in his own part what he's done at Aston Villa, helping them win the Europa League and qualify for the Champions League in the last few years. Obviously, this video and Konsa's signing is more focused around, Saliba's absence, and which we need that, obviously, but also right back because Timber's not fully fit. I'd love to be wrong, but if I was a betting man, 3 to 5 months of, with Ben White being fit, assuming other people are whatnot, I don't know if Ben White will be able to cope with that. So for me, I like the signing of Konsa because it eases the burden on Mascara because he's obviously quality, can play right back and centre half, but there's going to be times a young centre back is going to make mistakes, and you don't want to be in that scenario where he might be in a negative moment, a bad patch of form, and we're just having to play him regardless. So it eases the burden on that. It obviously gives us greater options so we can rest players because injuries very rarely come in one. So it's not going to be just Saliba, and very soon it's going to go from being the start of the season to 2 games a week to 3 games in 10 days, the international break on top of the last 2 seasons. And for the players that have participated in the World Cup, it gives us flexibility in that regards. Also, it raises the level and the flooring because again, Konsa could start for the majority of other Premier League clubs. People, this is probably the one club on paper with Saliba and Gabriel Magalhaes that Konsa probably doesn't start. So again, I like it. I like that he backs himself because yes, there's rotation, there's minutes for everyone, but to some degree, there's 2 men that can play in that defense in the centre half role. There's 3 of you competing, so it might make, even though we know Saliba and Gabriel are better, might make them to buck up their ideas. Not saying they don't, but we got an England international, a European champion trophy winner on our backs. Let's fix up. And you could also simultaneously say that to centre half. And it gives Arteta confidence to not necessarily rush back Saliba because we can't just assume 3 to 5 months. The minute 5 months is up, he's passed whatever medical test. He's ready to go again, people. He's going to have to get up to speed. He's going to have to find his rhythm. Obviously, when you're out for that longer time, people, you are going to pick up little knocks and niggles. And also it protects us. By God's grace, Saliba is back earlier and fully fit, but he could be back sooner. He could be back later. So it kind of releases that pressure. And also, we're strengthening an area that's strong in it. Like we've got fantastic options that can play as left-sided centre-back away from Gabriel Magalhaes. Got a decent amount of options now beyond Timber and White with Mascara, and obviously and Konsa are able to play right back. Centre-half were kind of stopped. So this is, he's plug in and play. It makes us stronger. When I look at Bruno G and Konsa, it reminds me of what Alex Ferguson used to do. I'm not saying we're going to dominate like Man United or Manchester City or ever be like Real Madrid in Europe or do what we see certain elements of the last 2 years from Paris Saint-Germain. But this is the ambition. Now, relating it back to the Alex Ferguson stuff, he used to cherry pick the best of the rest. We've went and taken a centre-half that, fair to say, right now he starts for Spurs, he starts for City, he starts for Liverpool, he starts for Man United, he starts for Arsenal by default, not necessarily if the others are fit. So you're getting a starting level player to be a squad player. If he competes and does his thing, then you're going to play games. You're keeping that level. So Alex Ferguson used to do that. And I think the same kind of parallels are with Bruno G. Now, obviously, Newcastle have been ransacked. Aston Villa is harsh because Onana's out for a season. Telemans has gone Man United. Morgan Rogers has gone Chelsea. Luka Dean's gone Paris Saint-Germain. Konsa's obviously jumped ship and gone to Arsenal. So it's a bit of a change in project. But when they get away from that, the man's 28 years of age, has 2 years left on his deal. Apparently, they wanted 60 million. The rumored final price is 51 million pounds plus 4 million in add-ons. So you got close to your asking price. So the more I like this, the more I see it, the more I like it. Now, personally, I did want Konsa ahead of Konsa purely because, and I said in that video, I think Konsa is better than him at centre half, but he's a bit younger. And I was more thinking about right back because for me, off the bat, I don't think we're going to get striker this summer, right? But striker and right back for my 2027-28 season kind of requirements, I think they're the areas, you know, Ben White out, bring another one in, people. But I like what Konsa is. And he's hungry, isn't it? Like, you're at the pinnacle of world football. Like, you're playing for a team that's won a Premier League. You obviously played for the country at the World Cup. You've been part of a great Aston Villa project. You know, while we won the Premier League, you and Bruno haven't. So if there is any complacency, you're going to kind of make sure that that's not the case, because all of these other men have won it, you haven't. And obviously the fact that he's English, it adds to the British contingent registration rules, all of that kind of stuff. And it's a win now signing. Like, yeah, resale value and all of that, but him and Bruno G, when you sign them, man, no one don't care about the next 4 or 5 years. It's what you can achieve within that 4 or 5 years, ironically, from this date at Arsenal. So it does reflect that we want to stay at the top. You always just red light.